Hello, I'm Nathan from Serious Geeks. Welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be about the big man himself, Guilliman, and how I built a list around him. On the screen now you can see my own Guilliman, flanked by his Victrix guard. I highly recommend getting this model if you're an Ultramarines player, as he is a great centerpiece, and let's be honest, having your own Primarch back in the battle is pretty priceless. Whenever we build a list in 40k, I always recommend establishing what you want to do on the table, how you want to do it, and what units you absolutely love taking and want to include, as well as, if you're looking at a more competitive meta, how you want to actually win games. Guilliman is not an easy unit to include in an Ultramarines army. He is a large points investment, and also he is a Lord of War, which means you will have to take additional HQ choices to fill out your battalions and your brigades. On that basis, what is Guilliman good at? Well, we know he's good at leading the army, as he can give a lot of benefits to all the units around him. In addition to that, he grants the army 3 additional command points. He's also very good in close combat, able to go toe-to-toe with just about anything in the entire game. To ignore that aspect of him is a waste of his points investment, and as such, most people, when they take a shooting army list, do not bother with Guilliman at all, simply because they can get the same benefits from elsewhere for cheaper. On that basis, I looked at Guilliman and I thought to myself, well, I want him in close combat. I want him up there, leading the front line, taking on people where it really counts. And as such, I've built an army to reflect that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through each selection in my army list and explain why I've taken it and what it does on the tabletop. I've already explained what I want to do with Guilliman. I want him on the front lines and I want him chopping people up. So moving forward, we're going to come to the first selection, which is on your screen now. As you can see, I've chosen a Techmarine to lead the first detachment, a Spearhead. My Techmarine is going to be bare bones. He's going to just have a bolter and a chainsword. So as such, he's the cheapest choice available. His actual role will be to repair one of the vehicles later on in the army list, but not in the Spearhead, although he has got the capacity to repair those vehicles as well. You will see that later on and you'll understand exactly when I go through it. Not much to say about Techmarine. They're pretty much an auto-include. Everyone enjoys them, they're very effective, and they're very cheap for their cost, filling out an HQ slot very nicely. The next two units in the army list are a pair of Hunters. A very underrated unit. I really enjoy these, and I've had a brilliant performance from them in every game they've played. They're able to operate further away from the rest of the army without babysitting support from a character, simply because they have an inbuilt reroll to hit, as well as an additional +1 to hit against flying units. This makes them absolutely killer against Elder armies, as well as repulsors, which are replete in a lot of Space Marine army lists right now. Additionally, these units benefit from a stratagem called Skyfire, which enables them to have a +1 to hit, +1 to wound, as well as unmodified rolls of a 6, resulting in double the wounds caused in the damage roll. I've actually taken out a repulsor in one hit using this stratagem. It was very lucky, a bit janky in that regard, but really I didn't use it for the one-hit wonder. I used it to get the +1 to wound, which meant that my strength 9 shot against a strength 8 vehicle was wounding it on a 2+. That is worth a lot. These units sit far away from the rest of the army and just plink away with their long-range firepower at large targets and flyers. Not so good against infantry, but that's where the rest of the list comes in. Completing the Spearhead detachment is a single Devastator squad. The unit will be 6 strong with a Cherub and mounted within a Rhino. This unit is designed to jump out of a Rhino, benefit from being close to Guilliman, and then hit whatever target they need to with gravitic amplification and pop in the Cherub at the same time. So I'll get 20 shots in total, with the benefit of 8 of them under the signum of the Devastator Sergeant. It's a bit of a no-brainer choice. A lot of competitive armies use it. I could use a drop pod for this unit. It is an alternative that I am contemplating at this point. The only reason I haven't is because I'm going for target saturation on the board, so that my other units have the capacity to move up the table all at the same time, rather than coming in at different times around the board and not being targeted by the enemy simply because drop pods, once they're used, are almost useless. I mean, obviously there is an element of drop pods being able to hold objectives, etc., but that is all relative to where you place them, and after that they are just a storm bolter shot and move in line of sight blocking really. As such though, it is very possible to replace their Rhino with a drop pod and the army will be just as effective. However, you will have to drop them within range of Guilliman to get the benefit of it. So at that point, the drop pod is almost wasted, except as a means to prevent the squad from being wiped out. Moving on to the first HQ choice of the obligatory battalion is a Chaplain with a jump pack. This model is designed to jump up the table and uses Catechism of Fire to support my shooting units in their close range firepower. I will explain what shooting units in a minute, and he's fairly self-explanatory in that regard, so I can move on quite quickly. Mounted in a Rhino, an 8-strong unit of Sternguard, complete with a sergeant with close combat weapon, in my case a lightning claw, are there to move up the table alongside the gravitic amplification using Grav cannons and put masterful marksmanship on the enemy. They hopefully will get supported by the Chaplain depending on circumstances, so they're essentially wounding things on a 2+. They can fire at vehicles, which is not their designed application, but they have got that capacity and they're also quite good in close combat. This unit will be moving up the table aggressively to benefit from Guilliman and hopefully take off some pressure off the Devastators and maybe get me a second turn of using them, because let's be honest, once they annihilate a target, they're going to be dead. Helping these two Rhino-born squads get up the table is a Relic Contemptor, simply armed with a Kheres assault cannon and a Dreadnought close combat weapon. The reason I use this unit is because it's 2+ armor save and his increased amount of wounds, as well as being ancient so he can ignore wounds on a 6, means that he can actually soak a lot of attention and a lot of firepower. He has a movement of 9, so he will rush up the table and engage people in close combat very quickly. People do not like this at all, and in my experience target him as a priority, thus enabling the Rhinos to survive. This is why I didn't want to take drop pods, on account of it forces people to split their fire. If they want to take out the Rhinos to actually get to the units inside, turn 1, then in that case they're going to have to ignore a very fast moving and dangerous Dreadnought that is able to stomp hard targets. It does damage free with its power fists, so this unit is incredibly useful. And if you remember that Techmarine in the Spearhead, his job is to try and repair this guy by running and advancing alongside it. Sometimes you won't move fast enough, but the trick is to move the Techmarine first and then move to ensure that he has enough space and movement to be able to repair the Contemptor, who could otherwise leave him behind with a bad roll. Relic Contemptors are an excellent choice, and I don't think many people would deny that. A lot of people go for the shooting variant, but as I said, my army has its long range firepower and it really needs to get to grips with people up close. So in this case, I stuck with a close combat weapon. And let's be honest, if you get tag teamed with this and Guilliman, you're in for a bad day. The next choice is a 10-man squad of Cataphractii Terminators. I absolutely love the iconic look of these models, and alongside Guilliman they are really fitting. So what they will do is they will teleport down to as close as the enemy as I can and unleash 40 shots on them, hopefully using the benefit of Guilliman. After all, that's what conga lines are for. Quick word exactly on a conga line, if you're not familiar, is where what you do is you deploy or move a model so that it is within range of the benefit of another model such as Guilliman, and then string the unit along using coherency to get to where you actually want them to be. In this case, thanks to the large size of the bases and the fact that there are 10 in the squad with relatively good range, I'm probably able to get within 12 inches of Guilliman to benefit from his reroll 1s to hit, which, combined with Fury of the First stratagem, means that they will be hitting on 2s and rerolling 1s to miss. So on that basis, they are very effective in shooting. Additionally, by being within 12 of Guilliman, means that they will actually get +1 to their charge roll, which is crucial to get them into close combat because they only move 4 a turn otherwise. What you want is for this unit to jump down, shoot one target, and then assault another with all of those power fist attacks, although my unit will have a split between power fists and single lightning claws. 5 power fists, although 2 will be chain fists, and 5 lightning claws. Additionally, the sergeant will always have the grenade launcher because it's free and it gives you d6 extra shots, which also does benefit from the tactical doctrine, just like they would. This unit isn't easy to kill, but more importantly, they have a large footprint. And if they're jumping down in your backyard or even on your front lines, you're not going to be focused on the Sternguard or the Devastators that are bringing up their rear and supporting them with their firepower. As such, Guilliman will have a lot of models around him to benefit from his boosts to the army, as well as having a lot of support himself for close combat. The Terminators very well might die, but they will take a lot of enemy with them and they take a lot of focus. Bear in mind that the support for the army is in the form of 2 squads, 1 Devastator, 1 Sternguard, as well as a Relic Contemptor bringing up the rear of the Terminators. Guilliman himself is always a threat, and this is going to be a lot of target saturation for the opponents to choose between. That is how we win games, because the more choices people make, the more likely they'll make the wrong ones. On screen now is the limited edition Terminator Librarian. Please check out the video where I review it if you haven't already done so. Anyway, his role in this army is to jump down alongside the Terminators and try and get them into close combat a little bit easier. He has a Veil of Time, which means that they get to re-roll their failed charge rolls. Alongside Guilliman's +1 to charge means that we have Evil Sun's orc capacity when it comes to teleportation and charging. That is very useful in this army, as it means that the Terminators, more often than not, will make it into close combat, at least on turn 2. That is crucial because they only have, like I said, a movement of 4. We want them to be putting on as much pressure as possible to the opponent, and they will do that a lot better by annihilating one target with shooting and another in close combat. The Librarian's second power is Might of Heroes, which will be cast either on Guilliman or on the Relic Contemptor to give it toughness 8. This will be as and when required, and he will also be cast in Smite when necessary as well, so it depends on what the circumstances are. Aside from that, he is just there to support the army in any way he can and be an opportunist with his smites. The last choice in the elite selection is a personal favourite of mine, the Chapter Champion. This model is brilliant Ultramarines flavour, is dirt cheap in cost, and is an absolute brute in close combat. His position in the army is to accompany the Sternguard within a Rhino to give them more close combat potential, and also an additional threat to worry the opponent as opposed to the Terminators who've just jumped down in front of them. The army's relic choice is used here. He has the Blade of Triumph, which is a damage 3, AP -4 +2 strength weapon, essentially a better relic blade. It will carve through most targets surprisingly well, and he has a lot of attacks. Some of the most dangerous units to Space Marines are Knights, and we all know that, and with Chaos having the capacity to take Knights without it interfering with most of their rules, we can be sure that in competitive environments you will see them. Characters as well are very dangerous when they're chopping through your Space Marines. As such, the Chapter Champion can carve through those characters, and let's be honest, most Knights are upgraded to be characters, so he will get benefits to fighting them, such as reroll hits and wounds natively. This means that with the ability of stratagem support to fight again if need be, or if he's killed to make one last attack, means that the Chapter Champion is a very valuable character to conclude in the army. Alongside Guilliman, he can carve through a lot of infantry, which means that it takes a lot of pressure off Guilliman if he gets flooded by, say, Orc Boys. 30 Orc Boys will make a mess of even Guilliman, but when charged by the Chapter Champion and Guilliman combined, you have a lot of attacks that are going to mince through them. Taking a Chapter Champion is a personal choice. It's just a model that I absolutely adore. I love the ethos around it. I love the background. And also, I'm really enjoying kit bashing my own version of one, using Deathwatch legs as well as other pieces. It's an absolutely lovely model, and it could have quite honestly been replaced with an Apothecary. However, personal choice is a factor in our games, and we should all take it on board. This being said, I still think that the Chapter Champion is a competitive choice. Rounding out all your battalions will be troops choices. To this end, I've taken 3 tactical squads. 1 5-man with a Lascannon and Combi plasma, and 2 6-man squads of tactical marines with a storm bolter and chainsword sergeant on each squad and a heavy bolter in each squad. Now, originally these were going to be 5-man squads, but I did have points left over. The point of these 2 squads is to get a little bit of extra firepower up the table whilst also holding objectives and moving forward. Thanks to the heavy bolters, I get the benefit of the Hellfire stratagem, which is D3 mortal wounds on hit unit instead of its normal shots. This is absolutely amazing and is a reason to take a heavy bolter in every single Space Marine army. The storm bolters for 2 points enable you to basically double the firepower of a sergeant, and a chainsword is free, which enables them also to be 3 tactical marines in close combat. Unless of course you have shock assault, in which case he's less than that, but even so he gets 4 attacks in close combat, which is very effective. The 5-man tactical squad with the Lascannon is there to utilise martial precision, a stratagem that the Ultramarines have access to, which basically means the Lascannon can automatically hit whenever it fires. This, coupled with the fact that I have 2 hunters in the army, means that enemy flyers are taken care of quite easily. It must be said that these units could have been replaced with scout squads, but I did want the power armour on the table, the 3+ armour save, to mean that I had limited troops that I didn't want killed very easily from a distance. Likewise, I could have also replaced them with intercessors or other Primaris choices. Again, that's personal taste. If you need those units in your army, you add them in. I did want the heavy weapons, and I wanted those heavy bolters, particularly for Hellfire shells. Plus, as I mentioned before, my army is themed. It's actually all Mark IV, so it's modelled over a different sort of era. Obviously, Guilliman is a modern unit that has been added to the army, but that is neither here nor there. Like anyone who has a personal preference, just add and take whatever you want out of the army list if that's your choice. So there you have it. That's my 2000 points army list. As you can see, it's fairly different to what most people are used to taking in a Space Marine army. And a lot of people don't see these sort of units in this combination on the table, at least in a competitive sense. I don't think it's going to be bashing out Adepticon at any time soon. Well, I don't think anyone will be. But I think going forward, it will be a fairly competitive army on the table, and I look forward to giving it a lot of practice. Let me know in the comments what you think of the army list and what you would do to change it. Would you put some infiltrators in instead of tactical marines? I think that's a very viable option. It gives you a lot of support when it comes to deep strike denial, which is an old term for people who drop in using various means such as teleportation. Would you replace the Cataphractii Terminators with aggressors? I think that's a very viable option alongside Guilliman, because they want to be up close, which suits Guilliman down to a T because he's not being wasted. He could be up close himself, using his weapons to make his points back against the enemy, as well as boosting your army. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about this army list, and I also hope you enjoyed the way I made the video. I'm getting better and better at doing it all the time, so stay tuned for more videos that will be coming in the next week or so. Please support the channel by liking and subscribing and telling your friends to do the same. Thank you very much.